Ooh,
Fancy schmancy.
exciting.
Is this looking straight at the camera? 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everyone. Well, actually, it's morning for me because I'm in Connecticut. Very selfish of me. Hello, everybody. That was ridiculous.
That's why it takes so long.
No, it's not. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Arnold here, and today we have a new video. This video's topic is how to get into Yale as an international student. And last week or 2 weeks ago, in the community tab, you guys asked a lot of questions using the hashtag #AskInternational to ask our fellow international Yale student here some questions on the process, what it's like at Yale, and all that good stuff. So here we have Yasi. Thank you so much for your time, because I know you're a very, very busy person, but please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yasi. I've made a few appearances on the channel before. I am a rising junior from China. I am fully Chinese. I'm a Chinese national, but I was born in Northern Europe, where I lived for a few years with my parents because they were working / studying there. And I also lived in Baltimore, Maryland for 2-3 years at the beginning of elementary school. And that's where I learned all of my English. At the age of 9, I moved to Beijing, China, which is where my family is currently located and where I call home. At Yale, my major is mathematics and history, and for high school I went to a traditional Chinese high school and pretty much navigated the whole application process independently outside of school. So I think I do have some experience and advice to share.
Can you hear the cars in the background?
No.
All right, so before we start this episode, I want to give a quick plug to Isaac Winoto for the Footprints podcast. The only person who can dictate your future and your success and your ability to thrive and your ability to continue to provide value for yourself and others is yourself. 2 weeks ago, he had me on his first episode, actually, for a podcast that he made. He interviewed me about Yale, my life, my career aspirations, giving advice for the college admissions process, and all that good stuff. So please check out his Spotify link. It'll be down below. It'll be worth the listen. All right, Yasi, so the first question is, are international students evaluated under the same standards that national students?
Straight off the bat, yes, but there are two important things to remember. The first is you are evaluated within a pool, and most likely that pool will be geographical, meaning if you are an international student, for example, from East Asia, then your pool will be, I think it's Asian Pacific or like Southeast Asian plus East Asian. So everyone within that geographic area is going to be in your pool. So even if you think that, oh, wow, all these American students are taking all these AP exams and they're doing these very US specific activities, you won't be expected to do those because people from your region, from your pool, have a very different set of factors that they need to work with. Second thing you need to remember is, yes, within the same pool, everyone is held to the same standards, but those standards can't be directly translated into a set of numbers. I remember scrolling through Yale's admissions blog / webpage, and they have a lot of information about pretty much every aspect of the application on there. And they said somewhere that what they care about most is how you utilize the resources that are available to you. More specifically, if your school offers AP classes, then why not take some AP classes? But on the other hand, if your school doesn't offer AP classes, then they wouldn't expect you to go out of your way to spend all that money to take AP classes somewhere else or sign up for AP exams. But in general, as an international student, don't sweat it. You're not being compared to American native students. It's a completely different setting, but you are expected and encouraged to take advantage of all the resources that are available to you wherever you are.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah, that's super important. Context is key. And I also realized that you're dressed up really nicely, and I'm wearing a freaking Animorphs t-shirt thing over here.
I need to do my laundry. This is the last shirt I have.
If I don't send my ACT scores, am I at a disadvantage? Also, how is the climate for international students at Yale? Love your content. Keep up the great work. Wow, you already have fans, Yasi. They love your content.
For the first question, in any regular year, you're required to send in your SAT or ACT score. But this year, because of the whole COVID, okay, let me just... But this year, because of the whole COVID situation and a lot of administrations of exams being canceled, they have, I think, relinquished all standardized testing requirements, meaning you don't need to send in the SAT, ACT, AP, SAT subject test, any of those exam scores. And so to answer your question, no, you do not need to send it in. For the second question, what's the second question? The climate in general is super friendly and nice, which surprised me at first because I think we only constitute around 10% of the student population, and we are mixed up among native students when it comes to housing. So it felt a little intimidating at first to be surrounded by people who, you know, are from here and just find me not exotic. That's a weird word.
Oh.
I'm gonna say that again.
I edit it. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. But don't do me dirty and just like edit me.
No, come on. I'm not gonna do you dirty. Come on, I don't do that.
Okay, thank you. It was a little intimidating. Stop doing that. For me, at least, it was a bit intimidating being thrown into an environment where I'm surrounded by people who've been here their whole lives, especially in a classroom setting. As a math major, my first math class year was obviously taught in English, and that's completely different from what I grew up with throughout middle school, high school. So it was a little hard to adapt to, but I can say that internationals look out for each other. Some of my best friends to this day, in fact, some of the people that I'm going to be living with this coming year are the international students that I met during the international student orientation, the very, very first week of Yale. So it is a community that supports each other. It's highly diverse. There are people who might have more experience learning in an international setting, but there are also students that were born and raised in other countries. I think everyone is adapting and doing well. Yale does a pretty good job of helping us feel supported. And also the native students are generally very, very nice. So they'll try to help you out if you need help in class, if you need help figuring out taxes. So yeah.
I don't know about taxes. I'm gonna figure that out myself. Hey buddy, you're really doing an awesome job. Keep up. Yes, Yassi, you really are doing an awesome job. My question is, actually, I'm not from the US, I'm from Israel. And I dream about going to Yale, and I have really good grades. I'm still in high school, I'm a freshman, and I need advice from an actual Yale student. Please keep up doing these amazing videos. Yassi is awesome. Heart emoji.
I don't think he said that. Or she.
Okay.
So first things first, having really good grades is very important, super amazing, very happy for you. You're on the right track.
Woo!
Yay!
Yay!
Like, here you should like insert like a banner where we
with
so
like
right.
That's editing after.
Yeah.
We don't have the budget yet, but okay.
As I mentioned earlier, I was looking on the Yale admissions information page, and I was personally surprised to read that the single most important factor for them is your academic performance. A big part of that is how you perform at school. Tying it into what I said earlier about utilizing all the resources that you have, the best evidence to show to Yale is the fact that in your own school, you're a top student. Your teachers love you. You're getting involved in extracurriculars. You're becoming a student leader. You're taking challenging classes if you have the choice to. You're outside of school trying to help people in your community, educate your community, help younger people receive the information that they need in your community, whatever that may mean to you. It's really good that you're on the right track. And my advice would be to get in touch with anyone you know from your country. This applies to every country. From your country who has gone in. Ideally, someone who has pretty much the same high school background as you. It might be different for different countries. I know people from very small countries that barely have had anyone go to the Ivy League, and for them it's pretty challenging to navigate. And there are also countries like China or Korea that are some of the biggest sources of international students for US universities. So it's different for everyone, but it always is good to hear from people who have been where you've been. And remember that as a high school student, the most important thing to do is to first of all be a good high school student. And that translates into your grades, your involvement in school, and everything else should be accessories or, additions to that.
All right, Yassi, I have a big question for you. What is the main advice for any international student applying to Yale, hoping to be a class of 2025 Yale? Smiley face emoji.
2025, wow.
Wow.
That's going to be 3 years after we graduate.
Yeah,
Wow.
Shoot, we're old.
If I were to summarize everything I've said, it's to maintain a balance between being a good student in your country and being a good student in the US. What I mean by that is, for example, where I come from in my high school. So in China, if you want to get admitted into any college, you have to take a college entrance exam. It's notorious. I was lucky enough to be admitted into one of the most prestigious high schools for that purpose. So in my context, a good student is someone who devotes most of their time to honing their skills, prepping for those exams, and being a really good student in the classroom. There was much less emphasis on student government, student clubs, or community engagement, but those things in the American context for American universities are very important. My expectation for myself was to do my best within my system, be a good student within the classroom, put in all the work, which didn't work out super well, but I'm still here, so it's okay. Another big component of the profile I was building for myself was to show American universities that, hey, I can also engage in community. I'm also passionate about that. I can also get involved in initiatives that are beneficial to other people or are not strictly classroom related. So I also did a lot of, I was in a few clubs. I joined a student organization in my city. I got involved outside of the classroom. The biggest piece of advice is to maintain a balance. Show them that you can be excellent in your system, and you also have potential to be excellent within the American university system. At the same time, for me at least, when I'm surrounded by people who want the exact same thing as me and are going through the same process, it doesn't make me feel better. Ooh. If anything, it makes me feel more anxious because although I don't like it, it seems as if I'm competing with the people around me. But as an international student, most likely the people that you're surrounded with, the people that you're surrounded by have completely different goals than you. So it's counterintuitive, but it seems to foster a more supportive environment. At least for me, it did. My friends, they didn't know what the SAT was. But when I would study in the classroom, they would be like, oh, what are you looking at? And they would chat with me about what I was working on. And it made me feel empowered and encouraged because it felt like they were on my team.
That's a good mindset shift to have.
Yeah, and also just the fact that every single person in the United States who wants to go to college has to go through the application process. But in countries outside of the US, there are significantly less people applying to the same schools. For example, from China, at least in my year, only 6,000 or so students applied REA to Yale. And if you think about it, that's not too big. So yeah. Oh, one last thing, not super important, but if you want to get a better idea of what your chances are like or who you should go contact or something like that, it's a good idea to look up how many people from your country get into your target schools every year. Or if you come from a big US university source country, then look up how many people from your city or your school. If you need help getting in touch with people from your country, you can totally ask any Yale student you can find. I think they'd be happy to ask around.
Damn, the gift that keeps on giving. Yassi's advice. Thank you. All right, so this question doesn't have the hashtag #AskInternational, but I think it'll still be very, very useful, especially from Yassi's perspective. But how much do AP scores play a role in admission? And the other question is, what can we do during please don't roast me. I'm editing. I have the power of editing, so I'll take that out. What can we do during the pandemic to enhance our college application? So those two questions.
To answer the first question, well, this is going to be a very stereotypical answer that you can probably find on any Yale admissions webpage, but it's a holistic evaluation process, whatever that may mean to you. Yeah, so I can't say that the ACT matters in the sense that it gives
AP.
Oh, I can say that the AP scores I can say that the AP scores matter in the sense that they will give admissions officers a better idea of your academic interests, how you utilize resources around you, but it doesn't matter that much in the sense that a lot of Yale students who get admitted, whether or not they took AP classes in school, have scores of 2 or 3. It's normal. Some of us submit them, some of us don't. Don't beat yourself up if you get a bunch of bad scores and you feel like you can't submit them. Remember that it's not the norm to get a 5. Remember that there are a lot of people getting those 2s and 3s, and you might just be one of them, and it's totally normal. Yeah. And also something that really helped me out a lot is think of AP as a way to demonstrate your knowledge beyond the average. If someone had not prepared for an AP exam and just went in, they would have gotten a 0. So anything above 0 is like a pat on the back for you. But of course, you should be submitting like 1s or 2s, because compared to other people who submit scores, you might be less appealing. But that's a side note. And the other thing I'd like to say is, if you come from an AP background, if AP classes are offered in your school and it's a huge thing and everyone is taking them, then obviously you shouldn't just be taking 1 or 2 AP exams and calling it a day. You should be, utilizing your resources and taking as many classes as you can that interest you. But if you are doing IB, which I know is very intense, or if you're from like a different system that doesn't offer AP classes, then I promise you that the admissions officer knows that. They will read your school's profile, they will ask around with their colleagues, and they will be informed of the fact that you don't have AP classes to help you. But if you then take AP exams and try to demonstrate your expertise in that field, it's always good. So context is key, if there's a main takeaway from
That should be the slogan of the channel. Context is key, and I'm just spinning around in my chair.
And I think the second question was about what you should do during the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is a really big question I think everyone is navigating, even as college students ourselves. We are gearing up for future employment opportunities, or, like standardized testing for college students, like the LSAT or the GRE, stuff like that. I don't know anything about anything, but it is a big question. And what would help you, it's going to be a different answer for every single person. What would help you answer the question would be how you go about doing things during the pandemic is the epitome of the answer to the question, what do you like to do in your free time? Because you have all this free time.
That's a really good way of thinking of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good. I'm gonna pat on the back. Pat on the back.
Pat on the back.
Double pat on the back. Fly.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm like a.
You can cut to that. The end of that.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to cut it.
And I think what someone does in solitude or in a highly restrictive environment where you can't go out, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't go to events and interact with other people. What someone does when there are so many restrictions on the activities that they can do says a lot about them as a person. Off the top of my head, if you are able to do anything that's meaningful to you consistently throughout quarantine, it can show admissions officers that you are self-disciplined and you're goal-driven and you're consistent. You can persevere through tedious times, and that might be a value that a certain school really cares about. Definitely don't be pressured to learn a whole new language or learn how to code.
Hey, that's...
I can share what I'm doing right now to give some perspective.
Secrets, okay, all right. Confidential information.
It's nothing that's ooh. But what I am learning how to code, it's a very rough start, and I don't know where I'm going to go with it. I don't know if I'm going to use this tool in the future, but it's something that I've always been interested in. I expect it to give me a new way of thinking, which will be useful either way. And I'm also just, watching lecture videos on Coursera, reading books, doing some research with history professors at Yale. That's pretty much it. It's nothing crazy. I'm not doing 10 different remote internships. I'm not like many of my Chinese peers going back home and basically returning to normal. So I'm doing the best that I can within my circumstances. And I can tell you, yes, I feel anxious about this all the time. I'm nervous about having to explain this to future people in the future who might be able to determine where I go after college. But when I calm down and I think about it, I'm truly doing the best that I can given my circumstances, and that's enough. And I can always do better.
As activities in many countries are different from the ones commonly known in the US, how did you explain your activities in the Common Application?
So first off, just to reassure you, admissions officers, since they're assigned to different geographical regions, and they usually work with those regions for a number of years, you don't need to worry too much about them not understanding the context of your country. At least for me, Sorry.
No, I'm not gonna make fun. If someone's sneezing, bless you. God bless.
For me, I learned this after I got accepted, but the admissions officer who worked on the Asian Pacific region which was where the pool that I was in. It was his, I think, first or second year. He didn't have too much experience, but that didn't stop him from being able to like understand the context. And I have evidence for this because after we all got admitted, we came to Yale, and on a random night, all the students who got admitted from China sat down with him and we had a little chat. He could remember a lot about us as individuals and also our schools, our cities. So have faith in admissions officers. They do have a generally good idea of what's happening in your country and what kind of activities people in your country usually participate in. More specifically on how you explain, how you describe your activities on the Common App, I think is to really take a step back and think about what you accomplished or what you learned, what you experienced in an activity. The content, how you describe it matters more than the title. Sure, you might have a really tough time translating the event name into English, and it might still not make sense to them at all. That happened to me. But what mattered was I gave them substantial statements about what I did. For example, if I participated in a science festival research type of competition type of thing, it's very complicated. I still don't know how to translate the name. If I participated in that, then my description would be, oh, I worked with whom to write a how many page long paper on such and such. And that's already more substantial than saying, oh, I got first place in this competition that doesn't even have an English name. Right. That's one example. This would be asking international students to do much more than, is expected of American students, no shade. But try to describe what you did in a way that would make sense to an American.
Because we're dumb. We get it. Because we're dumb.
No, it's not. No. You have to understand that admissions officers, although they do have a much deeper understanding of your context than an average American, they still need some help understanding what you did. I think no matter what country your activity is involved with or is like set in, there's still some shared attributes among activities. Like, did you write something? Did you organize something? And how important was it that you did that compared to if you hadn't done that? So did you make an opportunity become a reality for a lot of people? Did you impact a community that had previously been, a certain way? Stuff like that. Try to be descriptive. Make it as easy for the admissions officers within their cultural context to understand as possible.
I am an international student and I do not take SAT or any admitted system by American universities. Will I need to take the SAT exams and apply, or will Yale just accept my certificate?
As far as I know, Yale has relinquished their standardized testing requirements for this year. I don't know about future years, depends on which year you'll be applying. Whether you submit an ACT score or standardized testing score or not, Yale would be happy to consider your certificate from your country. Something else to keep in mind, which I haven't done research into, is if you come from a country where if you come from a high school where the main language of instruction is not English, then you will have to take the TOEFL exam. I don't know if they're dropping that requirement too for internationals. You might want to look into that. And can I just plug here, Arnold, can you just edit in a screen recording of I'll give you the link later, but it's the Yale admissions homepage. There's so much information on it. I'm so jealous that when we were applying, they didn't have this. But yeah, you can find a lot of written text, interviews, and there's also a podcast about pretty much everything you need to know about your application, activities, extracurriculars. Well, there's the same thing, academics, interviews, essays, all that.
It pretty much makes my channel obsolete at this point.
Arnold, don't tell them that. Well, I think it still helps to hear from an actual student. We passed the check, but we don't know what happens in the room.
Oh, room where it happens. Zoom sucks because our singing can't be in sync. Did you have IB classes? If so, how did they contribute to your application?
I did not have IB classes, and therefore they did not contribute.
Next question.
But I can say that throughout the internationals that I did meet, maybe a quarter did IB, if that helps at all. What I have heard about IB is if you do IB, you're not expected to do a lot outside of IB in terms of academics. I have a friend who did IB. He took 2 AP exams and was done with it, and he got in fine, and he was an international. Like I said before, it depends on context.
Would you think that an international student from a small country not commonly represented in Yale's classes will have an advantage in admission due to the diversity behind the application?
Yes. That's just straight up facts. You can't deny that, because I don't know what like political or financial implications there might be behind this, but Yale of course wants to diversify their student population as much as possible, especially for international students. I remember for my year we had almost 180 international students, including people who had dual citizenships. And I remember reading in a pamphlet, or them saying it somewhere, that among all these international students, there were how many countries were represented? Like 50 something countries were represented. And if you go to, I don't remember seeing this when I did my research last night. Yeah, I did research last night. I don't remember seeing this when I looked it up earlier, maybe because I wasn't looking hard enough, but when I was applying, I did like take note of what countries were represented at Yale, and there were, I think, a solid at least 100 countries. And that's something that Yale was trying to, you know, be very vocal about and have information on their webpage about, so you know that they want that diversity. And so to answer your question simply, yes, it does help if you come from a traditionally underrepresented community, but that does not mean that you can just get it if you apply. You are still held to the same standards. You have to be pushing yourself. You have to show that you are not only excellent within your context, but you have potential to be excellent in the American university context. And do not worry, it does not mean that you have to speak with an American accent. It does not mean you have to have taken like a bunch of English seminars at Yale summer session. No, as long as you are doing the best that you can, and trust me, the admissions officers have a pretty good idea of where your ceiling is and how much you have to help you. As long as you are doing the best that you can, you have an advantage over whoever is in your pool.
Right now, we've actually come to the final and last question. It's been an amazing time with Yasi so far, but this is the final question for you. Yasi, how hard was it to adapt to life in the United States of America?
Every international student would give you a different answer. If you had asked me last year, I would have said, pretty easy. I adapted within the first few weeks. But looking back now, because I feel like I'm at a better place in terms of adapting now. Looking back, I think my whole first semester was a little rocky. Not only adapting to being in a new country, but also being in a learning environment that I had never had exposure to. And this might not be a problem for some of you guys, but for me, it was a little weird being in seminar rooms surrounded by, native students who have in the past had frequent exposure to environments like this. Speaking up in seminars was a little challenging for me, but I also felt somewhat justified to feel anxious when I communicated with my professors about that, and I got a bit better, and now I feel much more comfortable talking in a classroom setting. Another example is, like I mentioned before, being in math classes. Previously, all my math was learned in Chinese, so I was very confused. Some of the most basic terms, I had no idea what they meant. And even writing out my homework, I would need to use English, but I had no idea how to do that because I previously had used a different language and basically a different system of thinking. So academic-wise, it does take, I would say, a few months / a semester. But after that, you start feeling like I'm doing well. I'm adapting. Apart from academics, I think social-wise, I at first I was very intimidated that I'll be surrounded by native students, and I was worried that I wouldn't have that strong of a international support system. And at the same time, you kind of are challenged by this paradox. You want to fit in with Americans and really immerse yourself in the environment, but at the same time, you do want to maintain a really close relationship with people who come from similar backgrounds, but you have to keep a balance between that. And something I learned was an unhealthy instinct I had at the very beginning was to spend too much or too little time with other students from my country. So sometimes I would spend a lot of time with them studying in libraries, going to eat out together. But other times I would completely isolate myself from my own community. And looking back, I should have maintained a balance. It's good to want to immerse yourself, do more American things, whatever that may mean to you. But it's also really important, and you should hold on to that cultural value in yourself to, keep in touch with people who come from where you are. Go to Chinese restaurants. I mean, since we're Chinese, go to restaurants, try to cook with them. And I think Yale does, I'm pretty sure most American colleges do a very good job of fostering that sense of community, that cultural homogeneity, while also giving you the freedom to explore as an individual and kind of immerse yourself in the local culture. Out of a 10, I'd give it a 5 or 6. That was how difficult my adaptation was. If you make it to that step, you will adapt. There's no getting around that. So don't worry about it. Yeah, I guarantee that my more international, moving around a lot when I was a kid background is the minority at Yale. Most of my international friends were born and raised in whatever country they're from. And I think that's super empowering. Yale does not expect you to have an American accent. If any college does, that's stupid. Because everyone at Yale, professors, students, administration, they appreciate the value that you bring. And it's not something that should be masked with a more American facade. It's just seminar rooms, you can feel totally comfortable just being like, I'm from this country, and in my country, we think about this in this way. And I guarantee you, as long as you phrase it politely, everyone will be super fascinated to hear how you see the same thing that they do in a completely new perspective. And that's the value of getting an international education as an international student.
Dang, International Students 101. This is the ultimate guide, the ultimate video. Yasi, unfortunately, our time has ended here. We finished all of the lovely questions that were asked by the amazing supporters, subscribers, friends of ours.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to help some people out. And I really admire what you're doing with your YouTube channel. And I just want to say to all of you.
I hate it when people do this. I hate it when people do this.
No, I really do. I just wanted to say to everyone that I'm pretty certain that Arnold is very serious about this channel, and he wants to make it bigger and to reach more people and to spread more positive vibes and helpful information. If you can, maybe send some of his videos to your friends who might also be interested in applying to American colleges, interested in Yale, interested in the things that Arnold
silly
is
person.
interested in.
Oh yeah.
If you have any more questions for internationals, not just me, for any other international, because fun fact, Arnold will mention this probably in his future videos, we will be rooming with some other international students next year, so there might be an opportunity.
That's confidential information. What you're doing is confidential.
Sure. Okay.
Comment down below. Engagement, have a conversation, talk about stuff. Yeah, sorry for stealing your thunder.
Always ask more questions and just use Ask Arnie, Ask International, or whatever hashtag Arnold comes up with. I think in the future we could make more videos like this. We can make more videos asking different types of stuff.
And we'll have a better budget to do cool editing and effects.
Yeah, don't count on that.
Okay. All right, once again, thank you so much, Yasi, and thank everyone for watching this video. If you love this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and click on the notification bell or the bell notification icon. We always have arguments about that. Well, yeah, you know what? Comment down below. Is it bell notification icon or notification bell?
Notification bell.
Bell notification icon. Thank you so much. This was an awesome opportunity. Thank you, Yasi, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
We hate each other.
That was fun.